boys and girls, and welcome to today's video post for the Monocled Gamer blog. I am the Monocled Gamer, as I suppose you already know if you're watching this. It's in the title, I think is over there. Anyway, point is, today we're talking about Monday's blog post on the Legend of Dragoon. It's classic, at this point it's about 11 and a half years old, and it still is a beautiful, wonderful game. As most of you know, and the rest of you are about to find out, the Monocled Gamer is all about story-driven gameplay. The best stories in gaming. The most captivating, the ones that satisfy the most, that give the most closure. And we'll talk about other games and great mechanics and all those things, but in the end, a truly defining facet of a great game has to be its story. With that in mind, Monday I wrote about the general gameplay mechanics, the setup, the graphics, and all of that, and the story of The Legend of Dragoon, and encourage you all to pick it up. And I promise that today I'll talk a little bit about what else makes the game special, what makes it really stand out. I already mentioned the addition system, which in a JRPG like The Legend of Dragoon is really nice, just because the addition system is part of combat, and it adds a little more customization to the rote combat of most JRPGs. I mean, you have the strategy, but in the end, most JRPGs, you hit attack, and pick a target, and you watch your dude run out and smack a guy and run back. Woo, that's so exciting! I mean, there's a reason people love real-time fighting games. Games where different buttons hit people different ways, and you feel like you have control of the character's abilities. That's just really satisfying. And so, The Legend of Dragoon, I feel, takes a really great step in that direction by creating additions, which are these escalatingly difficult battle chains. You have to time button presses as your character attacks. If you time the button press wrong, the combo stops. They stop hitting. The addition ends. However, if you complete it to fulfillment, they'll finish the addition, say its name in a dramatic voice, and I mean, that's just cool. It does way more damage, it earns you more spirit points, which builds up your ability to turn into a Dragoon, which is one of the other things that makes the game unique. I mean, obviously, it's called A Legend of Dragoon. There are going to be Dragoons in it. Dragoons are essentially Dragon Knights, a group of people who each possess the soul of a dragon. Not in the, it's like they're humans with a dragon's soul inside them, more they're humans, but they possess an actual item, a trinket, essentially, that is that dragon's soul. It represents what that dragon is. And it's not that anyone can have this item and become a Dragoon. It's that certain people are chosen, are fated, if you will. And so the Dragoon mechanics are also really cool. I talk more about that in the blog, the written blog from Monday. Go check that out and read it. I don't want to take a bunch of time here and waste the time of people who've already read the blog post by rambling on about the same things. So let's talk about a couple of the things that are really, in my opinion, great and special about this game. Now, at the time, there were a lot of great games. I mean, the PlayStation era of gaming had a lot to offer. There was a lot going on, but I really enjoyed The Legend of Dragoon because it had so much that we love today in our RPGs. As I've already mentioned, it had these little nuances and specialties of combat that made it more interesting. It had a grand, epic storyline. I mean, very honestly, the story of The Legend of Dragoon is divided into large chapters, and you could take and cut the entirety of The Legend of Dragoon story into, I'd say, probably 3 games, and they would still all be good. And so, I mean, it's on 4 discs. Yes, this is the PlayStation era, and they're black bottom discs, which is, I mean, super classic. But still, it's a long game. It's a 30 to 60 hour investment. And that's just satisfying. It's like reading a great book, except it's a great book that you get to participate in the action of. That's awesome. But some of the things that I think are particularly wonderful about the game are what I'm just going to refer to as gamer's choice. The developers of the game, which happen to be Sony Computer Entertainment, anyway, put in just, you know, like most developers do these days, things you can decide to do if you want to. I mean, you have games, for example, the recently came out, and I'm playing it currently, Dark Souls. The developers really give you nothing there. They'll let you do whatever you want, in whatever order you want, provided you're good enough to pull it off. For the most part. I mean, there are some limitations. I know, I'm playing it. But, for the most part, if you get up the gusto to do it, you can certainly try. And if you miss something, you've missed it. It's gone. You're not going to find it again. So there's that. Legend of Dragoon is similar. There's a lot in the game that if you miss it, if you don't take time to look for it, you're not going to find it. You might not ever get a chance to go back and find it. And the humorous thing is that this isn't limited to trivial little things. It can be major story-shaping elements. It can be major game points. In fact, there's a character in the game who, unless you pay some attention and do something that seems pretty unimportant, you can't even get his Dragoon spirit. It's just something you can pick up in a little side alley in a large city. And you can just miss it. Completely miss it. And not even know it's there. The first time I played through the game, for the vast majority, I didn't. I honestly didn't. I think I just happened upon it one day when I was already well past that point in the game. Because the game lets you travel back and forth at will. Provided you're not in, you know, the equivalent of a great big dungeon or a ruined Wingly City or something like that, you can go back to the places you've been to train or to look for items that you missed or secret bosses. There are secret bosses. The secret bosses in The Legend of Dragoon are absurdly difficult to beat. I mean, just disgustingly powerful. The kind of guys that you don't want to mess with until you're near endgame. They're just that good. And that's fun. You know, that gives you something more to play for than the end of the game, which in and of itself is amazing. The battles in The Legend of Dragoon are very tactical, which obviously is another great thing about it. And I feel that they're often more tactical than most JRPG battles, which are, I would say in general, more tactical than most other game battles. They ask you to keep track of a lot of things, including a lot of abilities. The American version of the game has a full bag limit of 30 items. There is no item stacking within that. It's just 30. Which is fun. And so you really need to be methodical and think about what you want to do, and you generally can't go in guns blazing unless you're over-leveled by a large margin. Then it's really fun. But The Legend of Dragoon is just, it's really a game that offers you everything. Yes, it's old. Yes, it's polygonal. Yay, old graphics. But, I mean, even today, I was showing some people the trailer, well, not the trailer, the cutscene from the, I'd say about 2/3 of the way into the game. It's an 11-and-a-half-year-old game. But that cutscene, and many others like it in the game, is gorgeous. It doesn't look 11-and-a-half years old. It really doesn't. It translates well even to today. I mean, yeah, you can tell it's not brand new, but it's still good. And that's saying something. That's a testament to the longevity and the legacy of this game. That holds up. I mean, they obviously put some time into that. And if they put some time into that, I can assure you they put a lot of time into the story. I think the story really works in this game. I think it's worth playing. And to be honest, I have not played a game to date that gives more closure than that game does. I mean, the game ends and you find out what everyone in your party is doing. Everyone. And even within that, little story arcs and people you hear about and the side stories of your characters all have closure. All have final little bits and pieces to satisfy you. And it just feels good when you're done. It feels like you've truly completed something, that you have no questions left, that you're just satisfied with the experience. And that is what great gaming should be about. And that's why The Legend of Dragoon is still one of my favorite games, and why it is the first member of the Monocled Gamer's Classical Division. So with that, I leave you for the day. I will be back on Friday with This Week in Gaming. We have a decent number of new games came out. We're going to have a little fun and talk about some random little games, things that we wouldn't normally get into. And there have been some other announcements to talk about. I might get into a bit of a rant about DLC, or I might save that till next week. We'll see. Anyway, this is the Monocled Gamer. Have a great day, great night, depending on where you are, I guess. And I'll see you Friday.